There is the bell, and that means soccer is in session. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Madison Crews, and long time no see. It has been crazy with finals and other sports, but we are back for the last Soccer is in Session of the year. But don't worry, Soccer's in Session will be back in January as the high school soccer season begins. But yeah, I mean, I'm so excited for this week's episode. We're just it's such a cool thing that happened, and it's I'm so excited to share it with you guys. But first of all, we're gonna do a little bit of a recap, kind of give you guys an update of everything going on in Georgia college soccer, from all the way from NAIA all the way to Division 1. So I'll give you guys a bit of a recap of everything that you guys might have missed, and then as well, at the end of this, I had the opportunity to talk to UGA women's soccer coach Keidane McAlpine after they are the SEC championships going to the NCAA Division 1 tournament. So I had the chance to talk to him a bit about the season as a whole and what we can expect from them for next season. But before we get to that, let's do the recap. But first, a word from our sponsor at Kaiser Permanente. Soccer is in Session is presented by Kaiser Permanente. Live well and thrive. Let Kaiser Permanente take care of the rest. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the recap. So we're going to start with the NAIA division. Now let's start with men's soccer. So Dalton State went to the quarterfinals of the NAIA men's soccer tournament. They faced off against St. Thomas, where they went to PKs, and St. Thomas unfortunately advanced 5-4 in PKs for the semifinals. And then in the NAIA women's soccer tournament, Life University made it to the quarterfinals as well in the NAIA soccer tournament, and they played Spring Arbor, and they lost 2-0. Now, great job for both of these sides making it to the quarterfinals of this tournament, and to make it this far, I mean, that's a great testament to that program, and I'm excited to see what both of them do in the next college season. Now, Emory University competed in the NCAA Division III tournament for men's soccer. They made it all the way into the first round, where they went against Brevard, and they won 3-0, moving on to Sunday when they played against Colorado College, where Colorado College won 5-3 in PKs. And I was there for that game, and I mean, it was back and forth. It was Colorado College had scored first in the first half, and then immediately Emory was able to score within, I believe, only 10 minutes left in the second half. I mean, it was a great game to be at. It was phenomenal. I was so happy to be at that game and to get to, talk about it and bring some insight for you guys. But unfortunately, they were knocked out of that tournament. But a great job by Emory for the whole season that they did have. And Emory finished out the 2023 soccer season with an overall record of 12-3-4 and a conference record of 5-2. Now moving on to Division 2, we also have for women's soccer, the Columbus State Cougars. They made it to the NCAA Division II tournament. They played against Flagler College back on November 17th, where they won 2-1. And then they also played Sunday, where they played against Lenoir-Rhyne University. They tied it 2-2, and then Lenoir-Rhyne was able to advance on PKs with 4-2. But a great job by Columbus State in this tournament. They finished out their season with an overall record of 15-4-2 and a conference record of 7-1-1. So great job for them on their side. Now this is where I'm going to do my shameless plug, but if you guys want some inside information from both Columbus State as well as Clayton State, I got the chance to talk to both of their head coaches, some of the assistant coaches, as well as some of the players on both of their squads. Just to get an insight a bit about that, it's the Peach Belt Special if you guys want to listen to that one. I really enjoyed that one. That one was a lot of fun. But moving on to Clayton State, men's soccer, they went to the NCAA Division II tournament, and they faced off on November 16th against Lenoir-Rhyne, where they tied it 1-1, and then Clayton State advanced in PKs with 4-3. Then they moved on and they played November 18th against Limestone University, where they lost 2-0. Now, Clayton State, they had a phenomenal season. It was an overall record of 15-4-1, and then their conference record was 8-2. Both of these sides for this tournament specifically, I mean, they played phenomenal games, so you definitely want to stay tuned to them next season. I'm excited to watch them as the season goes on and we get to see more of them. Now, moving on to Division 1, we talked a little bit about it in Soccer's in Session a bit ago, but bringing it back up, the UGA women's soccer team got their first ever SEC championship for women's soccer, so that was amazing. A really historic season for them. And then they went on to the NCAA Division 1 women's soccer tournament, where they faced off against Liberty first in Athens at home, where they won 2-1. And then they moved on to face Iowa at Clemson, where they won 3-2. Then they went and faced off against number 7 Clemson, and they were able to tie it against Clemson 1-1, but then Clemson advanced 5-3 on PKs. But before last season, Georgia hadn't played in the NCAA tourney since 2014 and hadn't won a game in the tournament since 2011. The Bulldogs also hadn't reached the semifinals of the SEC tournament since 2012. And under McAlpine, him and his staff, they were able to make it to the semis of the conference tournament and also win it this year. And then it was their first time in the NCAA tournament since 2007, which, I mean, that's a fantastic turnaround for this side. And it was so great getting to watch it. Being a Georgia fan, not even just for football, but being a Georgia fan in general, just getting to see how well they were able to develop and grow as a squad throughout this whole season. It was so great to watch, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I'm so excited to see what they do next season. It's going to be so great. I'm so pumped. But speaking of UGA, I mentioned it in the open a little bit, but I had the opportunity to talk to Coach Keidane McAlpine of the UGA women's soccer team, and he gave me some inside information, a bit about how the team progressed from the beginning of the season to now, and just a bit about his overall thoughts as to how the season went and what we could expect from this side going into next season. First of all, Coach, I just want to say thank you so much again for doing this. I know it's in the off season, so it's a little bit easier, but I'm really happy to get to do this. As a longtime Georgia fan, I'm like hearing just a bit about the success you guys have had this season. I'm really excited to get to talk to you today.
Awesome. No, thanks for having me. It's good. It's good.
Absolutely. So first of all, I just kind of want to get your overall thoughts of how you think the season went for you guys.
It was good. It's funny. You tell me what the end result is before we start, and I'm ecstatic. You tell me what the end result is when you're in it, and you're disappointed that we didn't get to play at least one more game, right? So I have to be pleased with what we did in our growth throughout the season. But the coach in me always wants a little bit more.
I mean, even just through the SEC championship, throughout that whole SEC tourney that you guys did, in the quarterfinal against Kentucky, you guys were down a woman almost the entire game and still won 2-1. And then in Texas A&M, you guys were down in the first half and then you won 3-2 in overtime. I mean, what does that say about the resilience of your team?
Well, first of all, I think it speaks a lot to the belief in their ability to do it, because you can't be resilient unless you have a level of belief that it's even possible. And to me, that was probably the most important part, because throughout the season, we were growing that. We didn't walk into the season with that. I think, if you ask me where we start next year, I think we start at a different place because of what we were able to do. But the team was special, and early on in the year, the struggles that we had to close games, and to be fair, even the one we ended up dropping at the end was a big part of the mental hurdle that we had to climb. But to see them at the end go, hey, no, we're winning this game. We deserve this game. We believe in ourselves. That was everything, because I think it's a program shifter. I won't say changer, but it is a program shifter. That mentality is necessary if you want to play in the biggest games. And now that we have it in our DNA, I'm excited about what's next.
Absolutely. And I mean, so being your second season with the team, I mean, and having this huge turnaround for UGA, how has it been like to watch the development grow from your time being here in your first season to then now?
The first spring to now is night and day. But a lot of it was just growing the right habits. Like I said earlier, that belief system. We have to do certain things a certain way to end up in the spaces that we want to be. And I'm very happy for especially the group that was here when we got here. because I don't know that this was even in their mindset as a possibility realistically, right? And then I'm especially happy for those women who transferred in that took a chance on the idea of something happening, right? To ultimately be able to have some successes and help shift the program. I'm extremely happy for those. The freshmen, they'll be all right. They walked in going maybe, but even they took a chance on the program and the unknowns of the program. But I know their expectation was a little different. I think they felt as if it was coming, and they were going to be the catalyst for that change. But no, I'm extremely happy for those first two in particular.
You'd mentioned some of the transfers that came in this season and took a chance. Croy Bethune was one of those players. She
Yeah.
transferred from USC, and she came up huge for you guys in the SEC tournament as well as the NCAA tournament. How has it been to watch her grow as her first season as a Bulldog?
Well, it's funny because obviously we recruited her to go to Southern Cal, so it's hard for me to disconnect that early person that I remember, the young one that wasn't quite mature in her game and mature in just life, and now to see the woman that she is and how she integrated herself into the group, how she um, taught along the way because she had some experiences, and then ultimately to see her come off her injury and to feel good about what she was able to do. It was amazing to kind of see that, and I'm extremely happy for her because the journey has been a long one. But ultimately her talent got to showcase itself here with the Bulldogs.
What were some of the main takeaways or lessons that you've learned from coaching this team during this season?
Ah, that's a really good question. Um, that sometimes progress is slower than we want it to be. It took them a little while. A formation that isn't traditional was difficult for them to grasp, I think, early on and really buy into it. I think it was hard for them to see what it's supposed to look like, because they're so used to seeing certain formations do certain things. We grew up this way. This is my role. And we actually had to grow in it throughout. That was probably one of the biggest takeaways, and that patience that it requires. And then probably the other is the 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 excitement of true Georgia fans, not affiliated, not soccer fans, just Georgia fans that ultimately we saw travel to Clemson with us, that we saw show up every week in the stadium. So for me, that was exciting. That was fun. That just kind of gave me that cherry on top to the experience so far coming over and knowing that Georgia was the right place, but then to see that energy shift throughout the state, and with Georgia fans was phenomenal.
Even just like from the school in general, a lot of people know them as the football school, but is seeing these other sports break through and break out as someone who is a soccer fan and as well as a football fan. I mean, seeing that you guys are finally getting like that attention, I was like, "Oh, thank goodness." I was like because it's one of those sports where it's like it's growing so much here in Georgia specifically, and it's
Yes.
just great to see from both sides, both the men and the women's side especially.
Without question. I mean, I think you look at Atlanta United and the energy that they produce and the number of people that show up for them. Georgia is a soccer state, right? It is what it is. But I think to transition other people into it is special. But I also think it's important, and I think it's what's the word I'm looking for? I think it's very, very I don't know. I guess important is the best word I can think of right now, but it's one of those things. I think the players have to understand that excitement only builds if they go out on the field and actually give a performance. That there's an entertainment value that goes along with it. You have to create the energy, and if you're going out there being blah, you're not competing, then people aren't going to show up. And then, I'm not necessarily even saying winning, but you have to compete with a certain energy and level of pride that will force people to continue to come back to see that. And I thought that that was special, and I thought our team slowly but surely bought into that idea over the last 2 seasons of what that looks like, and to see them reap that benefit and get to go down on the football field and wave to the fans was awesome, because they earned it, and that's what it's all about. It's not given to you; you have to go out and earn it.
Absolutely. And a bit of a way from the questions I've been asking, I
Yeah.
saw on your page that you had a degree in business of music.
Mm,
How did you kind of get your start in coaching, and where was that transition like for you?
Oh, that's funny. No, I was in school. I was a music person. I thought I was going to be in Atlanta doing the music industry. Realized I wasn't mean enough. Um, so I couldn't quite go that route during that time. But I went home to just kind of find my way. I tried to play a little bit, and ultimately ended up getting a chance to play. But I was just home, and next thing you know, my sister needed a coach. My mom made sure that I was going to coach, and that was not a question mark. It was, son, you're going to help your sister, and so that's where it started. But while I was in school, the women's program started, and I was a friend of the program, trying to help some of my friends make the team. The coach there saw me working with some of the players, and so years later, she asked, "Hey, I got a spot open. Would you like to come do this?" And so between my mom making me do it, and then um, Coach Lauren Ecker Shepherd giving me an opportunity, I got a chance to step into it, and from there the doors just kept opening. I was in the game that I loved, and my playing career was a short-lived one, so I kind of knew what my path was.
That's great. I mean, I was in high school. I did theater in high school, and it was a weird transition when people kind of realized they were like, "Oh, so you're into sports?" I'm like, it's a kind
Yeah.
of a weird dichotomy, but I read that and I was like, I have to ask you about it. I was like, it's so interesting.
Yeah, I did a little bit of everything in college. Worked at a radio station, worked at a record label, did a little singing here and there, and that was my thing.
I love that. And now my last question for you, coach, today. What was some of the most memorable moments or achievements that you guys had throughout the season that you can share with me?
Memorable moments. Wow. Honestly, just playing UCLA was one, right? And that trip in itself was a team trip. It was a team building trip, and to be able to also take the team where we had just come from, and kind of see our stomping grounds. We took them out by our old house, and whatnot. So that was fun, and that's a good start to the season. I think um, the UCF win was a big win. Late winner, the energy behind it. Hannah's goal was massive. Caroline and her first goal, I thought all of that was amazing. Um, Trying to play my way through the games. Actually, let me look. The first Clemson game was a good one. It was a good game. I think there was a belief system that we needed to have. This was a high level team, a senior team, and obviously we ended up playing them again. But the first one, I thought we knew we had some moments to where we could have won the game, and probably should have won the game on the day. They'd probably say the same thing, but um, that's the way we felt leaving the game, and that was important. Um, uh, the LSU game was the blessing and the curse, right? Croy's first game back, great goal. We looked like a boss team in the first half, and then all of a sudden the wheels fell off. But I thought there's still a lesson learned in that game. Um, and then the SEC tournament. I mean, you can't not look at it as a whole. From the Kentucky game and the crazy way it started, and the way we played on the front foot, a player down, to the Texas A&M game, which I thought was the game of the tournament. The energy of the game, the tempo of the game, the quality of the game was unbelievable. To actually winning against, one of the perennials in the league, right? It was massive, and to see the joy in everybody's faces, that sense of accomplishment, was unbelievable. And then you take that into even the Iowa game, and again, the confidence that we walked onto the field with. And I don't think they ever thought there was a chance they were going to lose the game on the day. So Those were probably the biggest moments. And then, unfortunately, the last moment is one you know, I don't want to call it sadness because I do think there was a sense of they knew they had accomplished something, but more disappointment because they also knew they left some moments on the table. And for me, that is probably the most important because now sometimes you have to have a little pain to understand how to get to the other side of it and move forward. And the journey that we're on this season, last season, um, sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need that to understand who you are and to go into the off season with a little edge and shoot, I think the football team's going to feel it. A little edge. They left a little something on the table, especially after being on top for so long. It gives you that extra motivation. So I don't want to necessarily call it sadness because yes, we were sad, but it was probably more frustration, disappointment than anything else.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. This was a great interview. I'm so happy I got the chance to talk to you. And thank you so much again for doing this.
Of course. Thanks for covering it. Thank you for doing all that you do and promoting the game and pushing it out there and keeping people informed because it's a beautiful game. Not to mix words, but it is a beautiful game, and it's one once people really look into the nuances of it, they'll see it's also a thinking person's game as much as it's creative and technical and tactical, or technical and skillful. It is a tactical thinking person's game, and so there's so many nuances to it, and the more we can bring people into it and truly understand it and look at it with a more discerning eye, I think the more they'll find the beauty in it. So thank you for what you do. I'm really happy that I could join you today.
First of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to Keidane McAlpine for taking the time to talk to me and just, listen to my questions and give me some inside information about this team. It was such a great interview, and I'm so happy that I got the chance to talk to him. It was kind of something I've been wanting to do since they had won the SEC championship, and I'm so happy that I got the chance to finally interview him. It was just so great, and I mean, what a great way to finish out the last Soccer is in Session of the year. Now, I said it again, but guys, don't worry. Soccer is in Session will be back in January when the high school soccer season begins. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am so proud of it. I'm so happy that I got the chance to kind of start this up and to give you guys some fun interviews here and there to get a little bit of insight as to what goes on in college soccer here in Georgia, because I think it's kind of a hidden treasure. I don't think people realize how great it is and how well developed it is here in Georgia. So I'm glad I got the chance to do that. But before I close it out, a word from our sponsor at Kaiser Permanente. Soccer is in Session is presented by Kaiser Permanente. Live well and thrive. Let Kaiser Permanente take care of the rest. Thank you so much again for checking it out, and make sure you guys tune back into January for when we start up for high school soccer as well. Now, be sure to subscribe to Soccer Down Here wherever you get your podcast, and you can catch it there. You can also listen for free on the Soccer Down Here app. You can download that in your app store, and you can check it out on soccerdownhere.net. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys in the new year.